Jenna Bush Hager has never been afraid to speak honestly about her life. That openness is one of the biggest reasons audiences feel such a strong connection to her. While many public figures carefully protect every detail of their relationships behind polished smiles and perfect photos, Jenna has always seemed more interested in being real than being flawless. And now, that honesty is creating huge conversation online once again. Fans everywhere are reacting after Jenna found herself defending what critics have labeled a weird marriage. But instead of shrinking away from the comments or trying to explain herself too seriously, she handled the situation with humor, confidence, and the kind of relaxed honesty that instantly made people rally behind her. The entire situation started after Jenna casually shared details about her relationship that some viewers considered unusual. Almost immediately, social media exploded with opinions. Some people laughed and called the couple adorable. Others questioned whether their habits were strange. And of course, a few critics couldn't resist turning ordinary relationship quirks into dramatic online debates. But Jenna didn't seem bothered. In fact, she looked genuinely amused by the reaction. And honestly, that calm confidence made fans admire her even more. Because deep down, most people know relationships are never perfectly normal anyway. Every couple develops little habits, routines, inside jokes, and traditions that probably look ridiculous to outsiders. Some couples fall asleep watching the same movie every night. Others argue playfully over tiny things that somehow become part of daily life. Some communicate through weird nicknames nobody else would understand. That's not dysfunction, that's familiarity, that's comfort. And Jenna seemed completely comfortable embracing that reality publicly. Instead of pretending her marriage looks like a carefully edited romantic movie, she presented something much more relatable, a partnership filled with humor, quirks, friendship, and genuine affection. Audiences loved that. Almost instantly, fans flooded social media to defend her. People began sharing stories about their own unusual relationship habits, turning the entire conversation into one giant celebration of imperfect love. One fan admitted she and her husband still race each other to the kitchen every morning for absolutely no reason. Another confessed that her partner insists on narrating grocery shopping trips like a sports commentator. Someone else joked that true love means silently agreeing not to question each other's strange routines after years together. The internet couldn't stop laughing. But beyond the humor, there was something surprisingly sweet happening too. People felt seen. Jenna's comments reminded viewers that happy relationships don't need to look identical. There's no universal rulebook for romance. What matters isn't whether outsiders understand your dynamic, it's whether the two people inside the relationship feel loved, respected, and happy together. That message resonated deeply, especially in today's world where social media constantly pressures couples to appear perfect. For years, audiences have been flooded with glamorous relationship images online, expensive vacations, flawless date nights, dramatic declarations of love, and perfectly posed photos that barely resemble everyday life. But Jenna Bush Hager brought the conversation back down to earth. She reminded people that real relationships are messy sometimes, funny sometimes, awkward sometimes, and honestly, a little weird sometimes too. That honesty felt refreshing. Fans especially appreciated the way Jenna defended her marriage without sounding angry or defensive. Instead of treating criticism like a serious attack, she approached it with playful confidence, almost like someone laughing at the idea that strangers online think they fully understand her relationship. That reaction completely shifted the tone of the discussion. Instead of focusing on criticism, audiences began celebrating authenticity. One comment that gained huge attention online said, "The happiest couples are usually the weirdest ones because they're comfortable enough to be themselves." Thousands of people agreed instantly. And honestly, there's probably truth in that. Real intimacy often looks silly from the outside. Couples who genuinely know each other stop worrying about appearing cool or impressive all the time. They become relaxed. They develop routines nobody else understands. They laugh at things that make no sense to outsiders. That comfort is actually a sign of closeness, and Jenna's relationship clearly seems filled with that kind of energy. Fans also noticed how warmly she spoke about her husband throughout the discussion. Even while joking about criticism, there was obvious affection in her voice. The way she described their dynamic felt playful rather than performative, like two people who genuinely enjoy each other's company after years together. That detail mattered, because audiences can usually tell when celebrity couples are trying too hard to sell a perfect image. Jenna and her husband didn't come across that way at all. They sounded like real people, and viewers connected to that instantly. Interestingly, relationship experts and fans alike began weighing in online after Jenna's comments spread across social media. Many pointed out that humor plays a major role in long-term relationships. Couples who laugh together often build stronger emotional connections because humor helps people navigate stress, awkwardness, and everyday life more comfortably. And Jenna's marriage seems filled with laughter. That may actually explain why fans became so protective of her during the criticism. People weren't just defending celebrity gossip, they were defending the idea that relationships don't need outside approval to be meaningful. One particularly popular response online read, "If your marriage isn't at least a little weird, are you even really best friends?" That comment exploded because so many viewers related to it immediately. At the heart of Jenna's story is something audiences deeply crave right now: authenticity. People are exhausted by unrealistic standards and polished perfection. They want honesty, they want warmth, they want stories that feel human instead of carefully scripted. Jenna delivered exactly that, and in doing so, she accidentally sparked a much bigger conversation about modern relationships altogether. Some fans even admitted that hearing Jenna speak so openly made them appreciate their own relationships more. Instead of comparing themselves to unrealistic romantic expectations online, people started celebrating the funny little habits and imperfections that actually make relationships feel unique. That emotional shift was surprisingly powerful, because love isn't always glamorous.
Sometimes love looks like arguing over thermostat settings every single night. Sometimes love looks like one person constantly stealing snacks from the other's plate. Sometimes love looks like laughing uncontrollably over jokes nobody else understands. And maybe that's the kind of romance that lasts longest. Not polished perfection, comfort, friendship, humor. Jenna Bush Hager seemed to understand that naturally. Fans also admired how secure she appeared in herself throughout the discussion. She wasn't desperately seeking validation from strangers online. She wasn't trying to convince everyone her relationship was flawless. Instead, she simply acknowledged their dynamic with confidence and moved forward. That kind of self-assurance is incredibly attractive to audiences, especially today. Social media often encourages people to over-explain or defend every personal choice publicly. Jenna refused to fall into that pattern. She shared her perspective honestly, laughed at the reactions, and stayed true to herself. That calm confidence made her even more relatable. There's also something genuinely romantic about couples who embrace each other's weirdness without embarrassment. The strongest relationships often involve two people creating their own little world together, complete with strange habits, ridiculous traditions, and inside jokes nobody else understands. And honestly, that sounds far more meaningful than constantly trying to impress outsiders. Fans sensed that too. That's why support for Jenna grew stronger the more people discussed the story. Viewers weren't seeing dysfunction, they were seeing comfort, real connection, real friendship, real love. And maybe that's why the criticism ultimately backfired. Instead of making people judge Jenna's marriage, the conversation actually made audiences admire it more. One fan wrote, "I'd rather have a weird marriage full of laughter than a perfect-looking relationship that feels fake." That comment summed up the entire situation perfectly. People don't necessarily want perfection anymore. They want authenticity, especially in relationships. As discussions continued online, fans began sharing more stories about their own marriages and long-term partnerships. the internet quickly transformed into a massive collection of hilarious relationship confessions. Couples admitted to bizarre routines, strange traditions, and ridiculous habits they'd never normally discuss publicly. And honestly, the stories became incredibly entertaining, but they also revealed something important. Most relationships are weird in some way. People simply don't talk about it openly very often. Jenna did, and viewers appreciated the honesty. Another reason audiences rallied behind her is because she never appeared embarrassed by her relationship dynamic. Embarrassment often invites criticism to grow stronger. Confidence usually weakens it. Jenna responded with confidence. That made all the difference. Instead of letting critics define the narrative, she controlled it herself through humor and honesty. Fans admired that approach immediately. There was also something refreshing about seeing a public figure celebrate long-term companionship in such a realistic way. Too often, celebrity romance stories focus only on dramatic passion or glamorous moments. Jenna highlighted something quieter but equally meaningful: comfort and genuine friendship between partners. That kind of love often lasts longest, and viewers recognized it. One social media user wrote, "You can tell when couples actually enjoy being around each other. Jenna and her husband clearly do." That observation explains why the story resonated so deeply. People weren't reacting only to the funny details. They were reacting to the emotional energy behind them: warmth, trust, playfulness, security. Those qualities matter more than appearing traditionally normal. As the conversation kept spreading, one thing became incredibly clear. Most fans weren't criticizing Jenna's marriage at all anymore. They were celebrating it, not because it looked perfect, but because it looked real. And in today's world, realness feels rare. Jenna Bush Hager reminded audiences that happiness doesn't always fit neatly into other people's expectations. Relationships aren't performances designed for public approval. They're private partnerships built on understanding, patience, laughter, and shared experiences. Sometimes that creates habits outsiders might find unusual. So what? If two people are genuinely happy together, maybe weird isn't an insult after all. Maybe it's actually a compliment, because the couples most comfortable being themselves around each other are often the ones with the strongest connections. And Jenna seemed perfectly comfortable embracing that truth publicly. Fans loved her for it, not because she presented a flawless marriage, but because she presented an honest one, filled with humor, filled with affection, and filled with the kind of beautifully imperfect moments real relationships are actually made of. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think every happy couple becomes a little weird over time? And what's the funniest relationship habit you've ever seen or experienced yourself?